All right.
We're back again. Not a moment too soon. I had to come up with new things to say every week to make Josh happy.
Usually you say the same thing every week.
The first part's the same.
That's not even true. You're always like, and we're back.
Yeah, the first part's the same. The second part's new every time. Just to make Josh happy.
It's a routine, man. It's okay. You can say the same stuff every time. Nobody cares.
Yeah, I'm going to run out soon. Don't worry. So we're actually at episode 40 now.
Oh my God. That's amazing, man. Episode 40. We have awesome guests tonight, too.
Yes, we do.
You know what? Let's do something different, John. Why don't you introduce them?
All right. Well, from Massachusetts, kid, we got Deb Banaian. How you doing tonight, Deb?
I'm great, John. Thanks for having me.
Yes. And from Canada, we have Heidi, is it Cordner? Is that how you say it?
That's right.
All right.
That's right. Hi, John.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. We appreciate you guys coming on. Both of you have had a lot of success lately, so it'll be fun talking to you. You know what? I think that, I know you very well, Deb, but obviously people in other parts of the country may not, and same thing with you, Heidi. Maybe you guys could tell us a little bit about what you did before arm wrestling, how you got into it, that kind of stuff. Do you want to go first, Deb?
Sure. So I started off gymnastics as a kid. Did gymnastics forever and ever, then coached it and stuff. Then started lifting, just something to do, kind of a social scene thing. And met my husband, got into a little bit of bodybuilding, a couple of years of bodybuilding, and hated it. Hated the diet thing. Yeah, but I was really, really strong, just naturally strong. So I decided to do powerlifting. Then I decided to have children, so I stopped the powerlifting, had just done a few meets, did very well, came back, and had been trying out for Survivor. As of now, it's 16 years. So I thought, you know what? I need something new. They're not buying my gig. What am I going to do? So I thought, well, I'd go for a few world records, powerlifting. And I got those, and it still didn't work. And that's when arm wrestling came. I thought, oh, that might be fun. I wonder if it's a real thing. And looked it up, and sure enough, found a guy with a table. Ended up in Maine at a meet and or tournament, and the rest is history. So that was 5 years ago.
The rest is history.
Nice.
Yeah.
And you just took home a gold medal at the World Championships this year.
And
there it is right there.
Baby, right here.
Show that bling.
That's pretty damn cool.
Nice.
So fun.
Yeah.
So exciting.
How about you, Heidi?
Well, my story goes like this. I have two younger brothers, and my dad was always very competitive. So we always, every family get together with my cousins and my uncles, we ended up arm wrestling. And I liked it. It was fun, but I just kind of did it for kicks. Mm-hmm. And then I met my husband, and on our first date, we arm wrestled. And he got a good kick out of it, and he said, I think you're pretty good, and we should try this out professionally. We should go try it at a tournament. So in 2002, I went to a tournament. Turned out to be a pretty big tournament. It was a provincials. Mm-hmm. And I didn't do very well at all, but I liked it. And like Deb was saying, I got married, had my kids, focused on my career. I'm a high school math teacher, had my kids. And then about 3.5 years ago, I met Mike Gould, and he kind of took me under his wing, and he became my coach, and he helped me train, and he kind of gave me the ins and outs of competing, and rest is history. I've been hooked ever since.
And you just won the WAL. Did you win right-handed or left-handed? I don't remember now.
I won the women's heavyweight right arm.
That's right, right arm.
Very
I
nice.
watched it on TV, and I was very excited about it, but I couldn't remember what arm it was at this point. But yeah, that was really fun to watch. I think most people thought that the women had the best episode by far this year.
Yeah,
At least that was a
very good.
consensus. It was just cool to see you guys getting more attention. I mean, it would have been better, I think, if they spread it out over more episodes because there were a lot of great storylines there. But it was it was cool that you guys had your own episode instead of being squeezed in 5 minutes like they did.
And it's a start. Who knows what's going to come next year and for the years to come? But it's definitely it's got a lot of interest. So
yeah. You know, Deb and I just had the experience over at Worlds where they broadcast the entire tournament, you know, all day long, like 9-10 hours a day for the entire week in Bulgaria. And that's that's the main reason, actually, that WAF can't have the World Championships in Canada or USA right now, because we don't have the ability to put it on national TV for the number of hours that they do. But over there, it's, you know, it's a much more accepted and popular sport. And, you know, the women's side is pretty close to equally popular. I mean, their teams were gigantic. They had a lot of incredible women, and they had you know, great support from the teams. It was really cool to see. So I'm hopeful that it'll get to that stage over here in North America too.
Yeah, Josh, that was one of my favorite things about Worlds. And Dean was saying too, he was just so impressed that it wasn't like girls were an afterthought, or, you know, they didn't have that many classes and we had to combine classes or anything. There was no difference between the guys and the girls. You know, it wasn't like, oh, we'll do them after or try to fit them in, or tables were running and we were up there the same. You know, the camera coverage and the announcing was the same, and it was just really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Deep classes too.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I mean, like the women's classes over there were bigger than most men's classes in any tournament that you would see over here. So
Yeah, that's awesome.
have you been to WAF Worlds, Heidi, yet?
yes, I've went in 2013. I went to Poland. It was I had under a year of pro training under my belt, so it was a great experience, and I know exactly what you guys are talking about. It's, you know, I think it was part of what motivated me and pushed me to train hard was to see the level and quality of athletes that are out there in the sport. We don't really see that very often in North America, but to see what was going on over there made me realize that we can bring that here to North America.
Oh, of course.
And I think we're starting to see it with the men and the women, definitely with, you know, the coverage and the exposure we're getting now, and slowly the sponsors are coming in, and I think it's very exciting.
Talk about that a little bit, Heidi, because I know just from seeing some of your stuff on Facebook, you're sponsored by Girl. Is that how I pronounce it? I know GRRRL.
Girl?
Yeah, Girl, which is it's a really cool company. You can talk with them a little bit if you like, but I mean, I just think it's cool that you have a sponsor and that's something that's in our future.
Yes. So Girl is a clothing line that they make women's athletic wear. But behind what they sell is a message, a very clear message to women out there, and that's to accept our body sizes the way they are. And you know, the media has a lot of images that we're bombarded with from a really young age, and it's not just women too, boys get it too, but the target for Girl is obviously targeting young women, and so their message is just to promote and accept all body types. The owner of the company, Courtney Olson, she's originally American, but she moved to Australia. And then she met her husband, and I think she's traveling all over the world now, kind of promoting the brand. But she was the Australian women's champ. I don't know if she still holds that title, but she loves arm wrestling. So I ordered some clothes and the clothes didn't fit me. And they do their sizing a little bit differently. It's not the traditional small, medium, large, extra large. You go online and you fit yourself to match one of their female athletes. So you can go online and you can buy a shirt with size Heidi, because I'm one of their sponsored athletes.
Oh, that's interesting.
And that would size my body, fit my body type. So, I'm tall, I'm a bigger girl, so all my measurements are on the website, and you can order. But I think there's 7 or 8 sizes now. Holly Holm was really what kind of pushed their brand over the top last year when she beat Ronda Rousey. So she was wearing a girl logo when she entered the octagon. So. But yeah, if you're interested, and you can use my discount code, which is Girl Arm Wrestler, all one word, and you get 15% off.
Cool.
That's cool.
Awesome. Mm-hmm. It is awesome. It's just, I feel like that's like the first step, when the ESPN exposure, over here in this country anyway, and in North America in general, and Mexico too, one sponsor comes, another one follows, and pretty soon, you actually have the ability to make some small amount of money, hopefully, and then you can start using the label professional arm wrestler a little bit more seriously. A lot of us, we throw it around, oh yeah, I'm a pro arm wrestler, but it means you win $50 every other month at a tournament or something like that, if you're lucky. Right. If RVJ doesn't show up in my class,
Yeah.
So,
hey, John, I should say too, while we're talking about sponsors, that I'm also, and I want to give a little shout out to MyOfit, because they've sponsored me as well, and they're kind of new. In fact, they haven't done their official launch yet, which is coming up, not sure, January, I think. But they're awesome. The great clothing company. You can already go online to find their things, but absolutely. Yeah, and they're both arm wrestlers too, Kate Cornell and Chad.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So, John, are you sponsored by anybody?
No. I'm not.
Yeah, I'm not either. I'm not sponsored by anybody either.
Not yet, Josh.
Not yet. Yes.
Actually, we technically are both sponsored by Hand Control Worldwide. I don't know if you guys know this, but we've made $14 on YouTube so far.
Yes. It's a start, guys. It's a start, everybody.
Right.
So John Milne wants you to know he has a crush on you, Heidi. So that should go over well with your husband.
I love John too. He knows that.
And Alan Ford is also waving hi at both of you guys. He says it's awesome having you on the show. Okay, so this year coming up, Deb, I sort of know what you have planned, but you can tell people as well. Specifically, do you have any plans to jump in the WAL this year?
Yeah, and I wanted to last year. I really wanted to go to finals, but my daughter graduated during regionals. And there were no exceptions, so they wouldn't let me go on. So I did qualify for regionals, but I couldn't do finals without it. So unfortunately,
this year is a new year.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think it's going to be exciting. I like to get both of your impressions on. Like, I'm sure you saw what they said they're gonna start doing testing, at least to a certain degree. They basically have said. What it reads as though that if somebody expresses a suspicion or something like that, they're going to test random people, which seems like a kind of a strange way to put it into place. We'll see what happens in reality. But how do you guys feel about? You think it's a good sign for the sport?
I think any professional sport, if we want to get any credibility, it is what it is. We'll see. I'd like to see it being equitable. To randomly pick people, I think, it has to be fair. Bottom line.
Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah, the statement of with reasonable cause or whatever, that's kind of strange.
Yeah.
It's like, what do you mean?
Right. Okay, someone said, Josh Grant is doing steroids, so we're going to test Josh Grant.
Right. Yeah, I saw a couple of YouTube comments. It looks like they said he was on steroids. Better test him.
Right. Yeah.
My Russian, the guy who beat me at Worlds for the silver medal, got tested. So I keep hoping. I like the guy; he was really cool. So I don't mean this in a bad way, but I'm like, maybe he'll test positive, and I'll end up getting bounced up to silver.
Yeah, no kidding.
I don't think so. I mean, all those guys, us masters, the 40 and up, I don't think we really use as much as the younger folks. But it is a weird system. It's almost like, hey, snitch on somebody if you think they're using it, and we'll test them.
Yeah, or just to make life difficult for them or whatever. I mean, it just seems kind of silly.
I think it's a good sign because in order for, serious sponsors to sign on, they want to know that their athletes that they're backing are not going to be make them look bad by getting, with the whole Lance Armstrong stuff and all that other kind of stuff. They want clean athletes. So, I mean, I think it's a good sign. And I think, there's been a lot of controversy going on about, how much would the current champions be shifted around if they did start testing, and who knows, because you never know who's using, who's not. So I just think it's to, take it out of the equation altogether and just test like other professional sports do and let the chips fall as they may.
Yeah, it does have to go there eventually, right? I mean, but it is the conversation does have to go towards like, what is the system? It's got to be fair. It's got to be, because you can't just be harassing people for.
That's not random. If you're saying, hey, Josh Grant does steroids, so I'll pick on John for a little while. Sorry, Josh.
That's quite all right.
Yeah. I can take it.
Go check him. That's not random, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Well, and I think we all know they're kind of their poster people in the league too, and it's. If it's going to be fair, then it's got to be fair. And that's the only thing I'd like to see is don't just, like you said, Deb, let's not make it just random and pick on people and give them a hard time. Let's do it all or nothing, which is going to cost decent money from what I understand. I don't know. I've never been through the experience, but I understand it's not cheap to go through that testing.
Right.
Yeah, it is. It isn't cheap to do it the right way. By sending it out to an independent testing agency. It's like $250, $75 to $250 depending on who does the testing. So the cheaper one is $75. You do like the water stuff, it's $250. So it does add up. So I was reading that they did 100. They tested 100 athletes at Worlds, and there were like 1,300 or 1,500 people there. So it's still a small percentage of people that get tested, but. And they only test people that make it to the podium. So, so it's still limited, but at least it's something,
Right.
I definitely think John should get tested because, as he mentions, several people on YouTube have pointed out that his arms are too big for his body. As a matter of fact, William Gines just posted that your arms are bigger than his, and he weighs 80 pounds more than you.
Oh, John.
So, and Joe Uraz also said, Joe Urose. Every time I say his name, he's going to punch me because I always pronounce it wrong. Urose said that you should stop flexing.
Joe, how dare you?
You're flexing on the wrong show because both of these women have better arms than you, and that's just
maybe Deb, not me. Deb does.
I don't know. I've seen you. You've got some guns.
The only reason Josh is being like this because he's excited to see me in a few days.
That's true.
Ooh. Are you coming to practice? Oh, no. Are you coming to New England?
I'm coming to New England.
All right.
Yep, I'll be there.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
The 176-pound class is going to be a murderer's row. It's going to be amazing. I don't know if you know this, Deb, but Warren Hubbard cut to 176 just for this tournament. So.
Oh, really? Is he
it's going to be nasty.
For John?
Yeah, he said he wanted to take John out personally. So.
Excellent.
Thanks, Oren.
That should be fun. That'll be
so, training questions.
Yeah.
What is Heidi? What does your week look like in terms of arm wrestling training?
So I work with a personal trainer once a week. Saturday mornings I work with just a local guy, Chris, and we just do overall conditioning. And then once a week I train with my team. So I train with the Toronto Arm Crushers. So shout out to my awesome teammates. So we train sometimes at my house. We used to train at Mike Gould's house, but Mike Gould, my coach, unfortunately has moved out of town. So I've sort of taken over the practices. Mm-hmm. And then, so that's 2 days a week. And then for about 3 days a week, I have a a home gym that is pretty extensive. I have a half table set up there, and my gym is in my bedroom. But I have a preacher bench in there. I have an incline bench. I have a bunch of free weights. I have a stack. So I train in my room about 3 days a week, just strict hand, wrist, forearm. And then I go to the gym and work out maybe twice a week. So it's probably about 4, 5, 6 days, depending on if I have a tournament coming up. I'll slow it down. Obviously, I won't train with my team. Usually I don't arm wrestle for about 2 weeks before a big competition. I'll do some light weights, some cardio, but I don't like to I don't put my arm on a table for about 2 weeks before a tournament. So that's about it.
How do you mix in heavy days, like in general? Do you do that once or twice a week or what?
Just once a week, no more than once a week. I find my heavy lifts really drain me, and I take my rest day the day after. I'm not like Deb. I don't have, powerlifting or bodybuilding experience behind me, so I'm still kind of learning what works best for me. And then I actually, part of my training that I think has been really successful for me has been working with a team of like a physiotherapist, my chiropractor, just general maintenance on your body, just to keep things working properly, staying aligned, and just staying healthy so that you don't fall behind with injuries or training, issues with your training. So I consider all that part of my training schedule.
That's very smart. We just had a show with a couple of physical therapists on a couple of weeks ago, and that was their primary point, was that elite athletes tend to under-focus on the recovery aspect of training, and that's what leads to injury. And even if you don't get injured, it slows down your ability to make gains in training.
Yeah, for sure.
How about you, Deb?
Seems like a never-ending cycle. I haven't quite figured out the whole arm wrestling training thing, like what the right number of days are. Yeah. But now I'm back at square one after listening to some of the people at Worlds, Josh, like Bulgaria, who train like 5 hours on the table a day.
I know. It's crazy.
And it's just crazy. I can't even imagine. Not that they go hard for 5 hours, but they're banding it and stuff in the repetition. So I'm really kind of rethinking everything. I don't know. I'd love to go over there and spend a month over there. But I
think that it is a good point. Actually, they're coming on the show, the Bulgarian team, I believe, next week. And I'm going to ask them in great detail about that, because I was also very surprised by that. I mean, for those people who are not aware, they basically have the system in Bulgaria is a little bit different. They're going to confirm this next week, but they actually get paid for medaling. So they don't get paid to arm wrestle like we always think. But if they win, they get, the equivalent of a pretty significant amount of American dollars for medals. But as a result, a lot of them do not actually work. They just train for arm wrestling, as Deb said, 5, 6, 7 hours a day. And I don't know what that looks like. I mean, I don't think anyone could really train like we do 5 or 6 hours a day, but they're doing something. And I can't wait to hear about it. And I agree, Deb, that when you go over there and you see all these people who have incredibly huge teams, 50, 60, 70, 80 people who all train together in one spot, it's just incredible. We don't have that anywhere in North America. I mean, like with you, Heidi, and us here, I mean, we have a couple dozen teams spread around the country. Each one, 20, 30 people to go to each one, and they're great. I mean, you'll be able to train with Michael Gould, and we train with Fitzy and Norm and Jerry Cataret, and, John trains with some guys. And,
or girls.
Yeah, Josh.
Yeah.
Gotta be like that.
I'm just kidding around. I didn't give you any crap yet. That was the first crap I gave you.
No, it's not. Go rewind the show.
Oh, I've been very nice. I even promised to give you one of these.
You did.
Oh, that's Josh's. So, Heidi, I do it a little bit different, though. I know even Josh was saying that, I think he was saying that maybe he mixes in heavy days within each week.
Yeah.
But, depending, when training with Worlds, I kind of did my heavy days more like heavy weeks, heavy workouts where, 3 and 4 weeks out, because of course I took the 2 weeks, just about 2 weeks off. And then I ended my cycle with fast days, kind of speed workouts, just working into, hopefully trying to flash and save my arm. That didn't work out too well. But yeah, maybe we should have done a few more of those. But yeah, so I don't know. I kind of liked doing that. It was different for me, but
yeah, I think with training, when you said you haven't quite figured out the training program yet for yourself, I think honestly it changes every year or two. If you're really at it, your body conditions differently. It gets stronger, which means it has to recover differently. I think your training program will change over time, the whole time. Yeah. And I do think that I think you have to be okay with the whole process. I think people look for this one program that they're going to follow for the rest of their career. I'm just going to keep getting better forever and ever until I'm done.
Yeah.
And it doesn't work. If you're going to if you're going to do one thing the whole time, you're going to plateau, or you're just going to slow down because your body's just, I couldn't train the way I do now when I was 2 years in. I couldn't.
Right.
It was too painful or whatever. It was just my body wasn't conditioned for the sport yet. And it all depends on what you come in with a foundation too. Deb came in with a great foundation for power. She was built for doing something powerfully. I wasn't myself. Heidi, it sounds like you just came in because you were interested in it. Yeah. So everybody's going to start different. Everybody's going to end up different. And the goal really is just to really, really be honest with yourself. Should I change right now? Should I change what I'm doing? And also, you can listen to everybody in the world, but if you don't feel good doing what they're doing, then you should really stop doing what they're doing. And everybody's a little different with their program as far as that goes too. Mm-hmm. But it changes so much that it's so hard to find I haven't figured out the program yet. Yeah, you're probably not going to. The only thing you can really do is be I'm just training the best I can right now.
Right. Yeah, people will ask all the time, so what's your workout for arms? And it's not like I have a workout. That changes all the time. That changes every month or so, Yeah. I don't know that it would be effective to do the same workout forever. If you don't switch it up,
I think that's the key. Yeah, you gotta switch it up. I know for a while with me, it was just focusing on my wrist. And, when people first come into arm wrestling, it's hard to train specifically for arm wrestling, like you said, John. And it takes dedication because to make the gain, it's very slow in the sport to make any kind of gain. And you're either going to be willing to put in the time and to take the losses, or, it's not going to work out. And so at the, like I was going to say, that I worked on my wrist for a while, and then I worked on my overall power, and then it was the goes, and it was, so, I like what you guys are saying. It's true. You have to change it up because you kind of get good at perfecting a certain area or a certain technique, and then you have to change it up. People are going to figure you out, and you have to be ready to counter it with something else, right?
Yeah, for sure. For a lot of people, I think it's much easier to get stronger than it is to actually gain some more, what do you want to call it, self-awareness or, hand-eye coordination, whatever on the table. That's where that art form comes through, right? Where some people aren't as strong, but they can win because they know exactly where to put that power, and that's just as hard as the power. And sometimes when you have too much power in one area, it exposes your weakness. And with somebody who has that technical aspect of the sport, they're going to expose that, and you could walk away feeling much weaker than you really are. So there's definitely what's your focus? Is it your hand? Is it your arm? Is it your strength in general? Is it your technique? There's a big wheel that has to spin around in the sport, and it's kind of a cool feeling, but it's a scary one too when you finally get to that first part where you had a main focus on your weakness, and then that becomes a strength. And then you go, oh, it's time to change. And then, sometimes it takes months to even realize that you have to change.
Yeah.
But it's very important.
Last week, somebody brought up archery as something that Todd Hutchings used to do competitively, or at least successfully, before he started arm wrestling. And it's similar in many ways in the sense that it's a strength sport, but the actual execution comes down to, micro adjustments. in order to hit the target. And for us, one of the most difficult parts to master about arm wrestling, at least when you get past the basics, is the shifting angles, both from the start and then once you are going, and make a dramatic difference in the amount of pressure you can put in certain places. And the more you arm wrestle, you start to get almost an intuitive knowledge of it, but it also is something that can be practiced. And a lot of times, at least with me, and this is something you've helped me with, John, in the past, is just exploring those angles and how to develop strength specific to those individual angles that you might not even occur to you had you not practiced it.
Absolutely. Yeah, and then you add on things like endurance and all that stuff, and it's just it's a deep sport. I think that's what's kind of drew most of us in, right? Was that we thought it was just like I just get up there and just push, and I win. That's the sport. No, it's a whole lot deeper than you think, and then you break it up into all those things, and it's when there's no real template and there's no real like James has written a book on it, James Rodriguez, but there hasn't been this long, deep history of what we're doing here. Everybody just kind of flying by the seats of their pants, and it's kind of cool to really step back and look at this, this bigger history than we had, and realize that there's a million ways to get better at this, and it's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
And in the same sense, there is a huge history of arm wrestling too. I mean, everyone's done it for hundreds of years, but the sport itself has changed so much.
Right.
I mean, the tools, the tables, the everything, the pads, the absolutely everything. So in that sense, there's not a lot of history. But
yeah, it's definitely an evolving sport. It makes it, to a certain extent, like what you're going through right now, Heidi, in the WAL, it's exciting because it's brand new to everybody. So people who are watching on ESPN, they may assume that's what arm wrestling has looked like forever. And then people like us who are, competitively doing it realize how different it is and how exciting that makes it. And, it just makes it a crazy sport to try to keep up with and follow because things change so fast. Like at New England, we're using this new strap, and there's a lot of people that are kind of pissed about it because they don't want to try it. And then, but it's still exciting. It's just fun to be involved in the sport right now with all these different cool things going on.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, questions. Let's see here. Derek Smith wants to know from you guys, what do you think needs to happen in specific to help the women's arm wrestling grow in North America? And specifically, what keeps women away right now and what draws them in?
But you first, Deb.
Sure. I think that this show A is awesome. A great step. Yay!
Thank you.
Fun. This is what we need is people to just believe in us. And I know that when I first came into the sport 5 years ago, I feel like I was crucified on the Northeast board, and who cares? That stuff is gone. But I think that it's hard for some of the old timers to accept that the women are here and that things aren't going to change for them. It's just adding more love, a little more love, you're just sharing it a little bit. Like having a second child, you're not going to take your love away from the first one. You're just going to share it, Yeah. But yeah, so it's interesting.
Well, I know you've advocated, you've definitely are a person who tries to bring new women into the sport all the time. What do you feel like is the hardest thing? Like, what's the obstacle between most of them in joining the sport?
Even at workshops, I just did a workshop last week at UNH in Manchester. And you can tell when someone is interested in what you're doing. And they're kind of looking out of the corner of their eye, but they're not going to make eye contact. But they're really kind of interested. And this girl sitting here, she's got some great guns. And, they're interested. But there's a stereotype. And they don't want to be part of that stereotype. And they've seen arm breaks on YouTube.
Sure.
So getting over that, they're like, oh no. Come on, like, we're not going to arm wrestle. And for them to know that a workshop or learning how to do it doesn't mean that I'm going to slam you,
Right.
And there's been people like that in the sport. There's still people like that in the sport. But that's a small number of people in the sport. I think the greatest thing about the sport is the people and how much we really, really, really want other people to get involved, I don't know how many times I've had, and my husband yells at me for it, have someone at the table tell me, you know what, if you use that grip, it's never going to work. And at Worlds it happened. I tried a brand new grip because my arms were both dead.
Yeah.
And the girl I had just won the golds, who was in the final for the golds, the next day I went up and she said, don't ever do that grip again. That was stupid. Change it back. Because she beat me, like, flashed me in, and that was it.
Oh, okay.
And she, she didn't need to tell me that. She could have just been like, oh, yeah, God, I thought you had me. Whatever.
Right.
But people really want, like, you to have your best up there. They want to know when they beat you, you were doing your best, You had
I think it's really neat, and I'll speak just to the women. I don't know what it's like for the men, but there really is a sisterhood with the girls. We really, I really experienced it at regionals in Chicago last year, or this year, I should say, in May of this year, and then at finals as well in Vegas. We want each, and like Deb's saying, you're happy that someone beat you, but you just train harder. Next thing in your head, you're going to train harder. But I think one of the things that has really hindered attendance for the women is, unfortunately, some promoters will post, certain weight classes, and then, and I get the whole financial side behind it, but we really need to, if we're going to put something out there and we're encouraging women to show up, even if 1 or 2 women show up, to combine the classes. Sometimes I don't think that does anyone any favors.
I agree.
If I'm training hard and I work hard and I show up to an event, don't rip me off, because it's not fair. A lot of us travel long distances to go to competitions, and I'm running my first event, so I'm kind of nervous about it, but like I said, I think promoters, if you're going to put something out there and women are, they cut their weight, or they're training, they train their cycles to make a certain event, then I think that's one of the first steps to getting and keeping women in the sport. Because, like I said, there's a sisterhood. Once we're all there, we have a great time together. We cheer each other on. We give each other tips. I don't know any other sport that, once someone beats me, they come up to me and they say, you know what I did to beat you, and if you want to beat me next time, this is what you should do. You tell me another sport that does that. So
that's for sure.
I think those are excellent points, and I'm sitting here thinking about it because we, like at New England's, we've put it out there that we're willing to do an amateur women's class, so hopefully some women show up to participate in that, left and right hand, and we have the pro classes too. So I think it's a great point. If people are like cutting weight or traveling for it, it does kind of suck. It's hey, well, there's only 2 of you, so we're going to put you together with these other people that weigh 100 pounds more than you, and it's something that we as promoters probably don't give the right amount of attention to, because sometimes we do it to the guys too, and it's like it's not fair to them either. But as you said, the financial aspects and all that sometimes gets in the way of doing what is right for the sport.
Yeah.
I wonder though if we couldn't, and I don't know how you would feel about this, Heidi, because on the other hand, personally, if I go to a meet and there's only 2 of us and the other person's a beginner, I feel like I have traveled a long time. I've trained for this, blah, blah, So on the other hand, too, it's like I'd like to compete with someone else. So I don't know, but I think a lot of times we either combine them or we don't. But why not just move the weight? If there's 9 girls and only 2 of them are in my weight class, why don't we just say, okay, where's the midway? What's the mean? And divide it that way, which I don't think we do very often, which might be a better way.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea too, because sometimes people are a little reticent to actually get everybody together and say, hey guys, this is the situation, what do you want to do? And let people who showed up for the tournament decide what they would, whether they would like to combine class, or whether they'd like to run them as is, or what have you.
Right.
It's a big weakness in our sport, and it goes right in hand with the fact that we don't do junior classes ever. And you saw it. Both of you guys have been to World, so you see there's huge numbers of juniors over there in 3 different groups.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
And we were in Team USA. We were lucky to bring 2 awesome kids over there, Sage and Chance. But we should have 20, 30, 40 kids, and that's another thing we don't do at really any tournaments. If we have youth classes, they're generally for like little kids, which is fun. but it's not developing the sport, for the next generation.
No, that's where it's going to be for us. I think that's in boys and girls. I don't think it's going to be any different. Because there's that period of time where girls are going to be beating boys.
Absolutely.
It, and and I really think that's going to give when you have that even playing field when you're growing up. I saw it a lot in martial arts. It was no different. That you see the even playing field, and everybody gets the same confidence at the same time, and there is this thing where there's the blurred lines between those girls don't care. Like, line up a dude, go ahead, I'll whip him too. And that carries on into adulthood, and that, they might not want to compete against men in their adulthood when they're, adult athletes, but they will have the confidence to step up and compete against any woman. And I really do think that's where, I think if we want to talk about building a future of, not only better male athletes, but more skilled and, more populated female base, I think that's where it starts. And I think that'll help a lot. Because it is tough. It's tough when, you start off and there's this division between men and women. And not that there's a bad division, but there's just a division. But if you start off all together, that just gives you such great confidence going into,
I agree.
I think.
I mean, we always bring up the UFC on the show, but Dana White was like, there's never going to be women in the UFC. There's never going to be women in the UFC. And then a couple of years, once he let them in, their most popular fighter was a woman. And like we were just mentioning earlier, the best episode of the WAL this season was a women's episode. So people are going to the people that are in charge of making money and trying to be profitable are going to see that and say, wait a minute, we got something here. We got to exploit this as much as possible. So definitely a good sign,
Yeah, there's something about women competing, especially in strength kind of sports, contact sports.
Yeah.
It's just exciting. It's sexy and it's everything. It's really dramatic. I mean, some of Heidi's matches were the most, dramatic there.
Yeah, they were awesome.
And I think that's the other part too, is that we have to allow ourselves to be dramatic on the tip. Because A, it makes good entertainment, and B, because it's people want to experience what we're experiencing, and when we're holding that back,
you got to be who you are. I totally agree.
Yeah.
I mean, that's good advice for anybody. You know what I mean? Because a lot of us are not like that. We might be one way in the real world on the table. For whatever reason, you get nerves or anxious or what have you, and it holds you back. And you're right. I mean, that's good advice for anyone. All right, I got to ask some of these questions. So let's see what we got here. Got some questions from Granite Arms. Travis wants to know, for both of you guys, about specifically before a tournament, what kind of foods or supplements do you eat, and do you guys use pre-workouts? Do you think they're effective, etc.? So I don't know who would like to go first, but go for it.
Heidi, go for it.
All right. Well, before a tournament, the day of a tournament, I definitely take a pre-workout, and then during the day, I'll take amino acids just to. I can't explain the science behind it, but it works. Someone recommended it to me, and I like it. So that's it: amino acids and a pre-workout. I'll have my high protein and high carb meal the night before.
Right.
And then the day of, I'll have just oatmeal, coffee. The day of a tournament, and I'm not very hungry during a tournament. I don't like to have a full stomach. Which can be tough because, you guys know these tournaments can go 6, 7, 8, 9 hours long. And you got to peak a couple of times, right? You go through your weight class and then they bring it down to the semis and then you got to peak again. And if you keep making it through, you have to sort of keep a reserve of energy. But I still find maybe a little protein bar in between, just for some sugar. Other than that, for some reason, after a tournament, I crave a steak. So I look forward to the end of a tournament so I can have my steak after.
Well, it's a very legitimate point you just made about, not eating a great deal on the day of the tournament because, just running the digestive system requires a lot of blood. And that by itself absorbs a lot of energy. So all that blood that could be fueling your arms and your upper body going into your stomach is not helping anything. How about you, Deb?
I need to eat during a tournament, not large meals. I need to eat little bits throughout. So I'll have like protein bars basically, or even junk, but usually protein bars or some peanuts or something like that. But I need to stay energized or whatever. I don't know. I have phantom hunger pains during the arm wrestling. So that my brain's gone, that I'm just thinking about being hungry and not thinking about the arm wrestling. So I eat a little bit all, throughout. But
what about the pre-workout or supplements or anything like that?
Absolutely cannot do pre-workout. I did at your meet, your first one that was at Buffalo Wild Wings.
Oh, yeah.
And I dropped out of that meet. I thought I had to go to the hospital. I was just like, I was so sick, and I sat outside. It made me really sick, so I couldn't do it. But I'll tell you, my diet in general has changed a ton in the last 6 months. Just so protein based now, where before it was really sugar based. I just ate candy bars all day, every meal.
I can get behind that diet.
Yeah, absolutely.
Josh is a big fan of Oreos.
Bars. Yeah, that was. I'd show up at lunchtime in the teacher's room with my bag of Oreos, and so it's changed a ton, and it's so much harder bringing protein than it is Oreos. But I think we need it just to refuel our bodies. Every single part of our body is made of protein. Every cell is made of protein, so you kind of need that to build your muscle and just to recoup. And I feel like our bodies are taxed all the time.
Yeah, this sport's very tough on the body. And Heidi, what's your diet like? Typical day-to-day basis.
Well, like Deb, I'm a teacher, so I'm high protein, and I'm trying to cut out as much sugars as I can. It's not easy. I have 2 young kids, 2 boys. They both play competitive soccer, so we're busy. This house is very busy. So, but they're good eaters, so they like their veggies. Yeah, I'm not perfect. I don't follow any certain diet plan, but I try to stay healthy. I grew up, my parents were very health conscious. That's why they don't look their age at all. So, I try to instill those in my kids too. And I do feel like when I eat better, I compete better. So it's definitely motivating that way.
Well, there's a lot of research behind that. Just like even regardless of the effectiveness of any specific diet, if you're eating something that you believe is healthier, it has an impact on your psychological ability to compete. So there's real truth behind that. So like you said, regardless of whatever the science is behind a specific diet, if it's helping you be mentally strong, then it's something that's worth sticking with. All right. Let's see here. First of all, Jonathan Laba says, hi, Heidi. Says you're his favorite ever.
Hi, Jonathan.
And William Gines, who Deb, says, first of all, congratulations for gold.
Thank you. Yay.
And he wants to ask a question of both of you guys about how you mentally prepare for the bigger events, like Worlds or the WAL Finals. He's talking about getting overwhelmed with nerves and stuff, preparing for local events. So how do you guys manage that, particularly at the big ones?
You gotta start, Deb.
Sure. I just kind of ignore everyone, I think. I just kind of, at Worlds this year, a couple of times I even found somewhere, and last year actually too, I remember doing it, going behind the stage last year, and I was able to just kind of lay down and kind of zone out, kind of meditate a little bit. And try to forget everything. Yeah. Not worry about people in particular. And last year, and this year too, actually, I didn't really get to know my contestants beforehand. Like, okay, how do they pull? I don't think that's going to help me. It's going to make me nervous. It's going to make me think whatever. I got there not knowing how people pulled, and I just didn't think it would be really smart to change my game plan at all. And when I tried, I didn't do very well. So it was more of a health reason, like my arms were blown up. Okay, what can I do to try to, that was how I changed. But from a mental standpoint, I try not to change anything and try to stay just in my own zone. And you kind of miss out a lot of the day. Like I missed a lot of other matches. But for me, I just kind of had to stay in my own head. So... and not worry about people and watch their matches and, oh crap, she just was beat by Chris, and like I needed to just not do that.
Yeah, sometimes you can be a little more aggressive, a little faster if you don't think about what's this person going to do on the other side here. I'm just going to do what I'm going to do, and it's not really up to it's not up to them what happens.
The odds are good. There's only two of you up there. One of you has to win. Why not me?
Yeah, and it's up to me. It's up to them to stop what I'm going to do. That thought. Usually, if you're a little faster, a little more aggressive with that, usually if you guys are even and you're a little more aggressive, you're going to win.
Right.
So I think that's a really good point. And how about you, Heidi?
So I reached a point when I was competing where I couldn't move forward. There were a couple of girls locally to me here that I was training my butt off, and I couldn't beat them. And I actually went to see a mental coach who basically worked with me. I went to see him a few times. He hypnotized me at one point, which was really cool. And he kind of put me into this mindset of this doctor. He works with executives at big banks, actually, and he basically gives them the confidence to make big, risky decisions that they otherwise might not have taken, the risks they may not have taken. And so when he hypnotized me, he just basically talked me through some breathing exercises, like Deb was saying, some breathing, I go through the morning of a tournament. My husband knows if we're about to leave the house, I need to go and do my zip up, I call it, where it's just some breathing, some meditation. I kind of refocus myself, balance, the center of my body. And I really feel way more calm after I've done that. And it's actually something that in my area here with our students in the schools, we're working on that. It's just a mindset that we, before a test, when anxiety tends to hit, just different strategies to really bring your heart rate down, to not waste any energy on that kind of stuff. And so a few times during a tournament, if it's a long day, I'll just step away, like Deb was saying, step away, do some deep breathing, close my eyes. I know some people like putting headphones in. I don't need to do that to block out the noise. But yeah, mentally, the night before, I also kind of talk to myself as I fall asleep. If I have certain people in mind that I know are going to be tough, I just kind of talk myself positively about how that's going to go. And Deb's idea of, saying, well, it's good, the odds are good, it's 50-50, someone's going to win. Well, something along those lines. I won't give away all my secrets, but but yeah, very, very positive talking to myself. And for different people, different things will work. Some people it's music. Some people it's art. For me, it's just closing my eyes and picturing what's going to happen. I also do this thing with my hand. Before a match, you'll see, I'll shake my opponent's hand, and then I'll step back and I squeeze my right hand. And it's just a routine kind of ritual that I've done before every match. And that just I just kind of picture all the energy kind of realigning itself. It's like all the pieces are back in order, and then I'm ready to go.
It's like visualization.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, that's a very well-known technique amongst professional athletes. So we sort of make fun of like baseball players with all their superstitions, and Nomar Garcia Parra doing his little thing for 5 seconds before every at bat. But it worked. It got him into the frame of mind, and it enabled him to have great success. I mean, it's like you said, Heidi. It's an individualized thing, and I think the advice you guys are giving is just keep working on. Try different things and find what it is that gets you to that calm place where you feel focused, and then stick with it.
Right.
Yeah. Do you guys what do you guys feel like before the week or two before something big? Did it take a long time to kind of not waste all your energy uselessly before that, or how about you, Heidi, first?
It's funny because we talk about these 2-week breaks that we go on. I'm telling you, it happens to me all the time. I have nightmares that I'm going to forget how to arm wrestle when I get up on the table, because 2 weeks is a long time for us not to do anything,
really
right?
long, yeah.
Yeah, but I get really excited. I get really nervous. People ask me all the time, "Are you nervous?" Yeah, I'm nervous.
Yeah, I know when I'm ready. Like the couple weeks before a big tournament, everybody's like, "Are you in a bad mood?" And I'm like, "No, I'm not in a bad mood. I'm not necessarily." But you just focus, right? You just focus on what you're gonna do. And for me, the focus to not think about it too much is hard. And I've gotten a lot better at it, but it's just you got to kind of keep it this low roar all the time. Like it's always in the back of your mind, like 12 more days. And as far as resting goes, it's tough for any athlete to rest, because it's like, okay, I definitely am. Like the rest will make me a little stronger, a little better, and a little more healed up. But I can't get any better now. I hope I did everything I needed to. So the last 2 weeks before a tournament, it's always like, "Are you in a bad mood? You okay?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm all right. I'm fine."
Yeah, I don't know what to do with myself, but.
How about you, Deb?
I don't really get too nervous, especially not like weeks and days beforehand.
Some people don't get nervous. I mean, it's whatever
until
reasons.
like the moment of,
Mm-hmm.
and then they've called my class. I'm waiting in the pen for worlds or whatnot, or they call my name and I'm up at the table. All of a sudden, my stomach will go whoop, like a little, be like, "Oh yeah, this is it." Okay. And then I just kind of get psyched. So that's gone,
Right.
Like, here we go. This is what you've been training for. And you're either going to have it or not, but you've been training, so let's go see what you've got.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's where the confidence should come from, right? It's like, okay, I know I've worked hard as I can. I've worked harder than these people. Like, all right, let's do it. If it's there, it's there. If it's not, then whoever is across me is bad. It's definitely I think it's good. I think it takes, like with everything else, it takes different paths for everybody else. But once you finally do get that consistency of like, okay, with this certain path, mentally anyway, like I'm going to bring my best product, that's always a pretty cool feeling.
Yeah, and I think that you are realistic about your level. Heidi and I have both competed now internationally, and I think that we both feel now like we belong there. I think it was probably the McCall Gould Classic 2 years ago when I first met you, Heidi.
Yeah.
That was a turning point for me. Like, I was sure I would have just been beat, but I remember arm wrestling with Chris. It was the first time and only time until Worlds, and she beat me. But I remember getting off the table thinking, wow, I really should have tried harder. Like, I think I could have had her. Like, when I got up there, I'd almost beat myself, I wasn't quite sure I belonged there.
Yeah.
But okay, let's go for it. Kind of put on the brave face. And I remember just so excited to arm wrestle with her again. I was hoping I could have another match with her that day, and it didn't happen. And then last year at Worlds, because we're in the same class for, masters, right and left, and I didn't get a match with her either time. I was like, damn it. So this year, first day I didn't get a match with her, and the second day, finally, I got to compete with her and got my revenge. But
Good for you.
Yes, I knew it. Yes.
Well, it's inspiring to watch you guys, because I think you are both very passionate athletes, and it's fun. I mean, I haven't been around you, Heidi, when you're competing, but it's definitely fun being around you, Deb, because you definitely, I mean, all of us have it to a certain extent, but it's fun to watch it in other people, and you may not even recognize it in yourself, but there's definitely another level that I think elite athletes get up to, and that's why you guys ended up with tremendous levels of success. Both of you reaching the highest level possible in the two organizations you competed in. You both said a couple of times that you're teachers. So what do the kids think? I mean, obviously it must get brought up. It's got to be a pretty cool topic to discuss amongst I don't know how old the kids are you both work with, but I mean, tell me some stories about that. It's got to be fun.
Go for it, Heidi.
Well, I teach high school, so I have an arm wrestling table in my classroom.
Yes.
So it comes up a lot. And not only that, my school has a very successful football team. So pretty much, I would say about once a month, they'll kind of rally around one little sucker, and they'll bring him to my class, and we'll arm wrestle. But sometimes I'll always try to get a girl to arm wrestle with me as well, and I'll coach them through it, and I'll give them some tips. And it's funny because I'm going to generalize here, but the boys, they don't even listen to the tips. I think they think they're going to be the one guy who's going to beat Mrs. Cordner, and then they'd have all the bragging rights. But the girls are listening. They're like soaking it all in, and sometimes I can coach them well enough, and it's strictly through technique, and they end up beating some of the smaller guys, maybe not the big football guys, but
Sure.
I have a pretty good record so far.
That's awesome. Yeah. It's funny, like even before I started arm wrestling, for 18 years I've been teaching. For 18 years I've been arm wrestling with students. And what's so cool about it, Heidi mentioned the football players, but the people I find that are most interested aren't the football players. And my most success, I teach in kind of a very rural area, and a lot of farmers. And stuff, and their hands are so strong, and they don't have time for sports, but they're so successful with arm wrestling, Or my really troubled kids who are at risk for not being successful and maybe not completing school, maybe being involved with drugs. It's such an amazing focus for them, and these kids might not have done any work in the last 3 years, because at our school you just kind of move along. And I won't let them arm wrestle. That might be like, Miss Banaian, can we arm wrestle today? Well, you know the rule. You do everything I ask you to do today, and absolutely, you try to do everything I ask you to do, and absolutely, the last 5 minutes is yours. And it's cool. Amazing how many kids will do it for that, Or one of them. I won't arm wrestle with them all, but I'll say, one, unless I'm really close to a competition. But what's fun is, my rule is, you bring your own tissue. I don't supply the tissue, and your name has to be on my list. So I have a list of 18 years of students.
I love that. That's a great idea.
I already have my name, versus, and then I just have a line so they can put their name in, and that way I'll know who's next too. So I leave this clipboard up all the time on my thing, and they can just sign up, and if there's 5 minutes at the end of class, I'll let them arm wrestle. Cool. But yeah, or you can assign an arm wrestling day for each class or something. But cool. Yeah, they're great, and so they love to flip through 18 years too, and they're like, "Oh my God, you beat him? No way! He said he beat you." And it's like, yeah, well, because I make them do it in their writing who the winner is, so they can't ever come back and be like, "Oh no, sir." But there have been a couple of kids who have beat me through the years, but not many, and not recently.
Yeah, not recently. I believe that.
Yeah.
That's cool. Do you guys have like tables like Mike Solaris does, or do you just do it on the desk?
We do it on the desk. My principal won't let me have a table. I try to have her arm wrestling club, but again, she's only heard through the grapevine, has no idea even what it looks like. Sure. But I think if it was a guy, she probably would trust that they could do it. Mm-hmm. But so I'm just going to keep pushing. We're just switched principals, so I'm going to.
Well, it's a YouTube thing. People see the arm snap on YouTube and it like freaks them out. But I mean, people break their arms and legs and necks playing football, and nobody bats an eye. But when it comes to breaking your humerus and arm wrestling, everybody flips out. Well,
concussions. I have kids who can't do it for 4 months at a time. Every year, I've got 3 of those. It's crazy.
It is crazy. I agree. How about you, Heidi? Do you have a table at school?
I do. It's permanently in my classroom.
That's so cool.
Yeah, it's an official table. I think it was my very first table that I bought. I bought it online from China, I think.
Wow.
It's not the greatest table, but it's to spec, so
yeah.
That's all that matters. Works. That's all that matters.
Yeah.
My biggest fear though is someone getting hurt. So the kids know no one arm wrestles unless I'm in the room with you. Mm-hmm. And there's another teacher who teaches in my classroom sometimes too. And from day one, we just I would hate for someone to get hurt. Yeah. Because I know it's going to be pinned back to me. And I've had the unfortunate experience of arm wrestling someone and their arm broke. And I'm telling you, it's not something I would want on these young kids. Yeah. It's pretty traumatic.
Yeah.
It is traumatic. It's happened to me once too, and it definitely. I didn't feel like arm wrestling the rest of the day, and after actually the Boston City Championships we did a little while back, same thing happened. This is very interesting because the guy who broke his arm wrestling me broke another guy's arm at this tournament, and he was like, "That's it, I'm done." First, I broke my arm. My first tournament back, I break this guy's arm. He just was like, "I'm done. I can't do this anymore." Because it is traumatic. You know, Heidi, you feel that vibration when their arm goes, and it's just, it's a terrible feeling.
It's awful.
Yeah.
It's awful.
Anyway, so I'm glad you have a table there. I'm sure no kid's ever going to break their arm. I think you should have one too, Deb. Write a letter to the principal or whatever.
Yeah, we'll write one. Me and Josh will write a letter.
Yeah, we'll write one. We have a lot of clout.
Towels we put down for pads and.
Dear principal, we have a YouTube channel. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Therefore, you should listen to us.
Yeah.
Deb, Jonathan has a question for you, basically. More of a challenge, actually. He wants you to come down to Gene Camp's tournament and to bring Dean, because he wants to get some revenge on Dean. I guess Dean beat him 2 years ago or something like that. He remembers, obviously. So
That's funny. All right.
I haven't been to any of Gene Camp's tournaments. I've heard they're pretty good, though.
Yeah, they are pretty good. We had a good time. I didn't go last year, but the year before I went, it was pretty good.
So you mentioned you're running a tournament soon, Heidi?
Yes, I'm on December the 3rd. I'm running the WAL Provincial Championship for Ontario. It's kind of equivalent to your state championships.
Yep.
And so that will be on December 3rd at the Loaded Dog in Toronto. So I'm hoping to get a lot of people out. It's my first tournament. I don't know if I'll ever do another tournament. I like to show up and compete, I think, but James Reed has been amazing. He's been helping me through it and really been supportive. He's looking actually to promote the women in the sport, so he's trying to get a lot of the girls to be behind, the posters that you're seeing on Facebook. I've seen Joyce King and Jessica King are doing one, and Tiffany's, I don't know if hers happened already or if she's having one coming up.
Yeah, I think it's coming up. I think I just got the invite for that.
Yeah. Yeah, so he's trying to get the women to be showcased, which is another good thing for us.
He's actually watching right now. He was just we were just chatting while we were talking with you guys. He said, and I actually mentioned you, Deb, because he was talking about if there was more communication amongst female pullers and like targeting events that everybody would go to try to like have very deep classes. And I mentioned, the Female Arm Wrestlers United Facebook page that you have. Does that work? Is that a good idea, do you think? If you feel like you're having success with that kind of, first of all, is that even a good idea to try to arrange so that everybody shows up at like one major tournament?
I think that's awesome. And I've thought about doing a tournament like that. And I know it's hard. And some of the big leagues come along and then it makes it difficult too. But if we could all get on one page, I think it would be awesome. Maybe try to get some television, try to get, even if it's local. I know the last year, I had a huge Chronicle thing they did for me before Worlds at one of my tournaments and stuff. And they spent a lot of time there, and we documented a ton. And I think it's a great idea. It's so much fun. And Josh, we talked too about maybe doing a North America thing, right? I think Simon was talking about that.
Mm-hmm. I got all kinds of ideas, I have no shortage of ideas. It's a question of picking out what are the good ones,
Well, it'd be great. Even if it was just a girl thing, Amy. Didn't they used to do a round robin with Canada, I think?
Oh yeah, there used to be. It was right before I got into it. I'd say probably I got in 2013, and I feel like it was right before. And they had some big names. They had Sarah Bachman and Heidi Anderson. Yeah. They had Valerie Beach, and then all the Canadian girls. Laura Cook was involved. Sarah Wilson, Barb Zalepa. So yeah, it was a big tournament. Mark Zalepa used to run it. I don't know, maybe you guys can put a little pressure on him.
Let's go, Mark.
Because I do whenever I can.
Yeah, that'd be fun. I've never arm wrestled with Barbara or had the chance of seeing her arm wrestle, so I'm excited about doing that. I can't
She's
wait.
awesome.
Yeah,
Catch
she was
her.
awesome.
Yeah, loved watching her on WAL.
Yeah, I loved
Yeah.
everybody. Like, there was so many newer arm wrestlers going, "Who is she?" And I'm like, "Oh, son, you have no idea who that is." She's awesome. Yeah, and like she can arm wrestle. Like she's super strong, knows how to arm wrestle, but she doesn't like you would look at her and you wouldn't go arm wrestler. You know what I mean? But she is so strong and so good. And I just loved seeing all these younger guys in the sport going, "Who is she?" And, just not like she's just killing everybody. It is like, yeah, that's what she does.
Huh.
I was talking with a couple other folks, Heidi, about I don't know if you remember, the Can-Ams used to be a big tournament we used to do, and I think used to alternate, between the United States and Canada, in the Northeast, and since we both have big scenes right now, the Northeast of United States, and you guys up there have all kinds of stuff going on relatively locally, within 6 or 7 hours driving. We should put that together. It'd be fun, like the old days. We brought New England Championships back. It was gone for like 10 years. And the other huge tournament that used to be in our area was the Can-Am. So I'm going to reach out to all of you Canucks up there about trying to get that reestablished.
Hey, I'll be there. You tell me where and when, I'll be there.
That'd be fun.
Boom.
Yeah.
So we've kept you guys on here almost 90 minutes. So I don't know if there's anything we left out, if there's other things you guys want to talk about.
Just to go back to my page, though, to the Female Arm Wrestlers United, I think that has increased awareness tons. I think we've got 3,500 people, which for an arm wrestling page is pretty good.
That's great.
It's right up there. Yeah. It hasn't been around for a long time. It's been around for a year and a half. So I'm excited. I think it's moving in the right direction. I think that we're all doing great things, and WAL has helped, especially with now putting it on TV and stuff. And I think if they're smart, and I think they are, their money says women,
Yeah, well, I think it's kind of hard to ignore. I think when that episode came out, it was a big pop when it came out. It was. I think everybody was seriously entertained and impressed. So it's just a matter of time. It's just if there's a good product out there, it's just a matter of time. And any male arm wrestler who's worth a damn, has respected it for years anyway. So I wouldn't worry about it. Just give it time.
Absolutely.
I think so. The right person will come along with some money that can back it, and I think we're going to be golden.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Well, awesome, guys. We really appreciate the time. This was a lot of fun, and thanks for coming on.
This was awesome. Thanks, Josh and John.
Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
no problem at all.
Okay. Hopefully we'll see you guys soon.
See you guys in a couple days.
Good.
Hey, congratulations with WAL.
Thank you. You too with the laugh.
Thanks. Bye, you guys.
Peace.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
See you soon, John.